You ever feel like you're drowning in your own to-do list? Like, no matter how much you grind, your energy's just gone? You're staring at your laptop, brain fried, eyes dry, and somehow, you still feel guilty for wanting to lie down for 10 minutes. If that's you, stop scrolling, because this might be the most important thing you hear today. Let's be real. You're not lazy, you're exhausted, and not just physically. We're talking deep, soul-level fatigue, the kind that sleep doesn't fix. Because this world has trained you to believe that your worth is measured by how much you produce. Wake up early, hustle hard, grind till you die. Sleep when you're dead. Yeah, that's a real quote people wear on t-shirts like it's noble. But here's the truth no one told you. Rest isn't weakness. Rest is a weapon. And if you're not using it, you're basically showing up to a war with no ammo. We've been tricked, fam. Somewhere along the way, someone convinced us that resting means slacking. That if you're not burning out, you're not working hard enough. That the only way to succeed is to constantly push, even when you're running on fumes. But you know what happens to an engine that never cools down? It breaks, and it doesn't just break quietly, it explodes. Now imagine this. You're a lumberjack. Every day you head out into the forest, axe in hand ready to chop. You swing and swing and swing. But your blade? Dull. You're sweating bullets, burning calories, getting nowhere. Meanwhile, the dude next to you is taking breaks, sitting down, sharpening his axe. Guess who cuts more trees by the end of the week? Not the one who never stops swinging, the one who pauses to sharpen. And that's what rest is. It's sharpening your axe, it's loading your ammo, it's charging your battery before the next battle. But in the real world, we treat rest like it's optional, like it's some luxury we have to earn, and that's where we mess up. Because rest isn't a reward for doing enough, it's a requirement for doing anything well. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly rested? Not scrolling through TikTok? Not lying in bed, guilt-tripping yourself for not being productive? I mean real rest, the kind that leaves you feeling clear, whole, human. For most people, it's been a minute, because we live in a culture of constant stimulation. If you're not working, you're watching. If you're not watching, you're scrolling. If you're not scrolling, you're planning. Your brain never gets silence. It never gets peace. And when that peace is gone, so is your creativity, your energy, your drive. You ever notice how your best ideas come in the shower? Or when you're out walking with no music? That's your brain finally getting a second to breathe. Still think rest is lazy? No, rest is where ideas are born. Let's break something down real quick. You're not a robot. You don't run on code, you run on emotions, on energy, on rhythm. And every high-performance rhythm, whether it's music, sports, or life, has pauses. It's the space between the beats that gives music its soul. It's the timeout that gives athletes their fire. No one ever won championships playing nonstop. You train, you rest, then you strike. But you've been taught to sprint a marathon. You wake up tired, you power through. You drink caffeine like it's a lifeline. You crash at 2 p.m. You punish yourself for it. You open Instagram. You see some guy waking up at 4:30 a.m., doing push-ups on a mountain, meditating under a waterfall, reading 5 books a day. And suddenly, you feel like trash. But what if I told you that dude probably took a nap right after filming that reel? What if I told you real strength is knowing when to stop? This toxic productivity culture got you believing that rest is only for the weak or worse, the rich. But let me say it again louder for the people in the back. Rest is not a reward. It is the strategy. It's how the brain reboots. It's how your nervous system resets. It's how you stop running on survival mode and start operating from creation mode. Because let's face it, when you're burned out, everything feels 10 times harder. That simple email feels like climbing Everest. That gym session becomes a battlefield. That conversation with your friend feels like a chore. You're not living, you're just coping. And it shows. Your patience runs thin. Your focus disappears. Your confidence tanks. You start doubting your worth. And worst of all, you stop dreaming. Burnout doesn't just steal your energy, it steals your vision. Now let's talk about guilt for a second, because that's the silent killer, isn't it? You finally take a day off, and instead of feeling better, you feel worse. Your brain's whispering, you should be doing something. You're wasting time. Look at everyone else grinding. But here's the thing, you're not guilty of doing nothing. You're brave enough to do what's needed. And what's needed is healing. Because rest heals more than your body. It heals your mind. It heals your spirit. It reminds you that you are not a machine. You're a human being with limits. And honoring those limits isn't lazy, it's wise. You're allowed to close the laptop. You're allowed to nap. You're allowed to do nothing and still be valuable. Let me say that again for the people raised on hustle. You can rest and still be worthy. Story time. There was once a man, a young, ambitious guy who got a job at a timber mill. On his first day, he was pumped. Determined to prove himself, he grabbed his axe and went hard, chopping trees like his life depended on it. The first day, he outperformed everyone, even the veterans. People clapped. He felt like a legend. So on day 2, he thought, I'm gonna do even better. He skipped lunch, didn't take a break, just chop, chop, chop. But weirdly, he chopped down fewer trees. Same on day 3 and day 4. He was sweating more, working harder, but the results kept dropping. Confused and frustrated, he went to an older lumberjack and asked, Why am I getting worse? I'm trying harder than ever. The old man smiled and said, Because you stopped sharpening your axe. That's us. That's you. You're working harder, grinding more, hustling longer, but getting less done, feeling less alive. And it's not because you're broken. It's because your axe is dull. And you've forgotten to sharpen it. Rest is the sharpening. You think rest is stepping away from the goal, but what if it's the very thing that brings you closer? Every time you sleep deeply, every time you step away from screens, every time you allow stillness, you're not losing time, you're gaining power. And the problem is, we've been conditioned to associate stillness with laziness, but they are not the same. Laziness is avoiding responsibility. Rest is preparing to carry it better. Big difference. Look, even your phone needs to charge, even your apps update. Even your muscles grow during rest, not during the workout, but the recovery after. So why do we treat our minds like they should keep going endlessly? Because hustle culture sold us a lie. The lie that doing more is the same as achieving more. But here's the truth that hits hard. Rest isn't falling behind, it's launching forward. Think about athletes, the greats, Serena, LeBron, Messi. You think they train 24/7? No, they recover like pros because they know that recovery is a part of performance. Why don't we? Why do we celebrate sleep deprivation like it's a badge of honor? Why do we post, I'll sleep when I'm dead, like that's something to be proud of? Nah, that's not ambition. That's self-destruction dressed up in ambition's clothes. And I get it when you're young, when you're hungry, when you're chasing dreams, rest feels like the enemy. But what if rest is the secret weapon you've been ignoring? What if the reason you're stuck, tired, uninspired, isn't because you lack talent, but because you lack space? Let's get something straight. You can't hustle if you're hollow. You've got dreams, big ones, and you should chase them. But chasing without charging is like trying to win a race with no gas in the tank. It's not noble. It's naive. Real hustle? It's not 24/7s. It's not 18-hour workdays, 7 days a week, while living on caffeine and vibes. Real hustle has rhythm. Sprint, breathe, push, pause. You go hard, then you go soft. That's how you last. Even machines overheat. Even rockets need fuel. So what makes you think you can defy biology and just keep going? Let's talk guilt again because it's real. Some of you are resting technically, but mentally you're drowning in shame. You sit on the couch for 10 minutes, and suddenly a voice in your head screams, You should be doing more. But whose voice is that? Is it yours or something you absorbed from a world that profits off your exhaustion? Because make no mistake, a burnt-out mind is easier to manipulate, easier to sell to, easier to distract. When you're tired, you're not thinking big, you're just surviving. You're not dreaming of building an empire. You're just trying to make it through Tuesday. And that's the plan, that's the trap. The system doesn't want you well-rested and thinking clearly. It wants you overwhelmed and constantly comparing yourself. So you'll buy the next productivity tool, the next energy drink, the next life hack app. But here's the rebellion. Put the phone down. Close the laptop. Take the nap. Reclaim your brain. Because rest isn't just for recovery, it's for resistance. Rest is how you fight back. Rest is how you say, I don't need to break myself to build something meaningful. It's how you say, I refuse to measure my worth and output. It's how you whisper to yourself, I'm already enough even when I do nothing. Now sit with that. You are enough even when you do nothing. Let that truth sink in, because this world will keep telling you you're not, that you have to keep proving, producing, performing. But your soul, it's begging for stillness. It's begging for quiet. And you've been ignoring it for way too long. Let's end this with a wake-up call. And ironically, it starts with rest. Because here's what they never tell you. Rest isn't the pause before the action. It is the action. It's the courage to slow down in a world that won't stop spinning. It's the wisdom to say, I'll come back stronger instead of grinding yourself into dust. It's the strategy of warriors, not the excuse of slackers. You want focus? Rest. You want creativity? Rest. You want to stop burning out every 3 months and starting from zero again? Then you need to break the cycle. Stop chasing energy through more effort. Start generating energy through recovery. Imagine what your life would feel like if your brain was clear, your body energized, your soul not just surviving, but lit up again. You'd speak differently. You'd walk into rooms with more presence. You'd finally have the patience to build something real, not just sprint through another dopamine chase. Because you weren't made to live in a constant state of grind and guilt. You were made for seasons, for rhythm, for inhale and exhale. So here's your permission, not that you needed it. Rest deeply, regularly, proudly. Take naps and don't apologize. Say no and don't over-explain. Leave texts on read if your mental health needs it. Go for a walk, sit in the sun, do nothing, and trust that it's doing something. Because every time you rest, you're not checking out. You're checking in. You're becoming more in tune with yourself, more aware, more intentional. And that's where power lives, not in the chaos, but in the calm. So next time someone tries to guilt you for taking a break, just smile and say, I'm sharpening my axe. Because when you come back, and you will, you'll come back smarter, stronger, and more unstoppable than ever. And the world won't know what hit it. Now close this video, breathe, step away, and rest like the badass you are. Your future self, they're already grateful.